Hey, what's up? This is MVA Joshua. It's like 2:45 a.m. I just landed in Minneapolis, took the light rail, crossing this giant parking lot to my house. It's technically not Tuesday, but it's a continuation of Tuesday. So this is the weekly video blog where we talk about creative stuff. And what was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about the idea of... What was I going to talk about? I think I was talking about the idea of triggers for making work. I think one of the... So let me back up here a little bit. Earlier today, my kids wanted to make some paintings. So we got out there, this sort of acrylic finger paints and a bunch of Bristol paper, and they went to town. And I just kind of let them do their thing or whatever. And then once they're done, the rule is they got to clean the brushes and get rid of any water that's out, but they can't get rid of the paper plates that they use as palettes. And they can't get rid of any of the paper towels that have been soaking up paint and whatnot. Once they're done, I go in and just try to use up the remaining equipment, or the remaining I guess equipment is the term, but it seems stupid, but the remaining materials that are sitting out. So those the plates of paint that are still there, if those paper towels are still wet, I'll try to do some kind of mark making with them. It's kind of a cool thing because it's this time for exploration, and the whole thing, and this just kind of fits with my entire creative philosophy, at least for exploration and experimentation, is all I'm doing is essentially cleaning up their mess. It's just that I've turned cleaning up their mess into a source of fun for me, and through that process I always end up discovering things. I've discovered things about how to make certain kind of images on days that they were using metallic paints. I've discovered new impression techniques, new mark making techniques, what certain materials do when ink passes through them, that kind of stuff. And so it creates this avenue for play without any real expectations. I'm not worried about anything being good because I'm just using leftover paint and kind of screwing around. I'm fully engaged in that time, but I don't expect anything to come out of it. But then sometimes a cool discovery comes out of it, and it's the kind of discovery that I can't conceptualize. I wouldn't have sat down and thought, oh, if you do X, Y, and Z, you're gonna end up with something cool. Instead, it's more okay, well, I got this paper towel, it's kind of wet, I got two of them. What happens if I press them between sheets of paper? And what happens if I keep doing that? And then does that invent a picture making or mark making technique for later? So one of the things that I like to do is to try to invent these triggers that tell me, once a specific thing has happened, it's time for me to play with some materials. It's time for me to do something fun. So if you follow me on Instagram, MVA Joshua, and you see those abstractions I post a lot, those are clear plastic bags, usually bread bags, filled with trash that accumulate. And once they fill up with trash, I tie them up, and then I go sit outside somewhere and I take photos of them and I make videos of them. Those have become a thing that I consistently, I know somewhat what to expect, right? I kind of know how they're going to turn out. Not exactly. So, but they're a trigger. Once the conditions have been met, it's time to make something, which is pretty cool. So, so what I would say is if you can invent a way that when a certain thing happens, it's time for you to play, that can be a great way to inject play into your creative process. um, in a very kind of mellow way. And so so I'd look for that, you know, like, is there some material that you accumulate? Like the one I think about, but I never do it with, is leftover charcoal after a barbecue. Like that could be a cool drawing tool. I'm sure there's a million of them, but the idea is to look for something that could be a tool or a subject that would otherwise just get thrown away, and use that as a source of experimentation in a way that it's very easy to have no attachments to an outcome. Because again, you know, it's just trash in a plastic bag or whatever it is. All right, that's the end of this video. Thanks again for watching. As always, if you have any questions or comments, leave them. You can always send me a message too. And yeah, have a good night.